Hi, good day. Hello. When you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. That is something that Wayne Dyer taught us. Hello, this is Anton Bennink, and today I'm coming to you with a little session on the very first inner empire, our mindset. And as we spoke about the other day, we have 4 inner empires to cover. The mindset, the health set, the heart set, and the soul set. And these inner empires combined, what Robin Sharma writes about in his beautiful writing, make us and give us the opportunity to live a fulfilled life if we are able to find a way to implement growth in all of these different empires on a daily basis. And today I wanted to dive deep into mindset. And I believe mindset is something that it lays in the intellectual mind, our thinking process. And you've probably heard it before, what you think about comes about. And you don't get what you want, but you get who you are. You get what you are. You attract the things that you think about on a daily basis. You become what you think about most of the times. That is what Earl Nightingale called the strangest secret. And to work with our intellectual mind, we must realize that we have different higher faculties, but we're not taught to work with our higher faculties in school. The different schooling systems, they forget or to teach us that we have 6 higher faculties to work with. And when we increase the way that we think and operate, not through our senses, but through the higher faculties of our mind, we are able to consciously be aware of the creation process and consciously create our lives. So to really make use of these higher faculties, we have to shut off our senses. We have to not focus on our outer circumstances, not focus on those things that we hear, see, smell, taste or touch. Because when we focus upon that which we hear, see, smell, taste or touch, that's what we think about, that's what we feel about, and that will come about. So we get what we already have because we focus on what we already got. So we have to shut off our senses to be able to start the creative process. And this creative process is started by implementing and consciously using the higher faculties of your mind. What are the higher faculties of your mind? And I learned this from my late great mentor Bob Proctor. The higher faculties from the mind is the perception, the reason, the will, the imagination, the intuition, and the memory. So let's just go over them one by one. Your perception. When you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. That is how I kicked it off today. And this is something that Wayne Dyer stated, and this is a beautiful way of getting a better understanding of how perception works. When you change the way that you look at your life changes. When you change the way you look at your finances change. It is your perception. When you have a problem, do you perceive the problem to be a huge problem, or do you perceive the problem to be a huge opportunity? You can also use perception in another way. When you are struggling with a challenge, and you are on you want to figure out, all right, how do I overcome this challenge, or how do I turn this challenge into an opportunity so that it creates a better life for myself? You take the problem that you're working on and you write it out in a concise statement on a piece of paper. And you trim all the unnecessary words of it so that it's so clear on a piece of paper that when you give it to someone else someone else would immediately see what the challenge or what the problem is that you're working on at that time. And the next thing that you do is you put it in the middle of, for example, on a table. And first you go and sit on one chair at the table and you ask yourself, all right, how would, let's say, Thomas Edison look at this challenge or look at this problem? And you really try to get into the spirit of who Thomas Edison was. So like this works best by using successful people that you know so well that you can fairly easily get into the spirit of them. And then after you've written out what answers Thomas Edison would give to that problem, maybe you'd ask yourself, all right, how would Henry Ford look at this problem? Or how would Elon Musk look at this problem? Or how would Richard Branson look at this problem? And then by getting into these different mindsets, into the way of thinking of these different people, you look at the problem from different perceptions. So you get answers from different perceptions. And through that creative process you can use the power of your perception to solve almost any problem or almost any challenge in your life. And then we have the next thing. We have the imagination. And Napoleon Hill taught us that our imagination is the most miraculous, marvelous, most powerful thing in the world that we've ever known. And our imagination is our ability to visualize, to put an image on the screen of our mind and see that image of something that we want to become. Say, we can see the future happen already in the present by visualizing the present. That is what Neville Goddard taught so beautifully in the past. That we must live from the end. When we live in the imagination, when we live in the world that we already want to come from, we attract that which it entails to us. That has to do with the law of vibration, which is the primary law to the law of attraction that became so big throughout The Secret. And The Secret is often very misunderstood because the Secret is based upon the law of attraction, which is the secondary law to the primary universal law of vibration. So when you truly start to understand how you can use your imagination, you can create an image on the screen of your mind of that which you want, and you can attract it into your life. And then you've got the higher faculty, the will. And the will is our power to give our attention, to give our focus to one thing with the exclusion of all others. So our will gives us the power to hold that image that we created in our imagination on the screen of our mind as often and as long until it turns into form. And our will is also our ability to focus. And you can train it fairly easily, and I learned this from Bob Proctor as well. You can literally just to focus your will, to train your focus, to train your will, you can literally just get yourself a candle, and you light the candle and you put it in front of your favorite chair, and you stare into the flame for a couple of 20, 30 seconds, for a minute, maybe a couple of minutes. And in the beginning you'll realize that your attention span is so ridiculously bad nowadays that your mind will almost immediately start to wander. But over time, when you practice this every day, your attention and your focus will become stronger. And the thing is, when you can focus on something, you can focus on anything. A beautiful little anecdote of the human will is when President Kennedy asked Dr. Werner von Braun what it would take for them to get a human and put the human in a rocket and bring him to the moon and then safely back to Earth, Dr. Wernher von Braun said the will to do it. He didn't go into all the scientific or all the financial aspects that would be needed to achieve that goal. No, he said the will to do it. And the human will gives us that power to focus on something until it is achieved. That has to do with the law of gender. The law of gender decrees that everything has a gestation or an incubation period. So when you have an idea, and an idea is, say, a spiritual seed, like it must turn into form by universal law. But there's one thing that we know for sure, and that's that we are not able to know the exact date when it turns into form. And then we have had the perception, the will, the imagination. Then we have the reasoning factor. And our reasoning factor is our ability to accept or to reject an idea. We have in our conscious mind, in our intellectual mind, we have the ability to reason inductively and to reason deductively. And deductive reasoning basically means that an idea goes straight on to your subconscious mind. And reasoning inductively, that is that part of your mind where you can accept or reject an idea. And it is very important to train this reasoning factor. Because if you don't train it, you have, if something comes on the news, or if something comes on the radio or on the TV, and you have not activated your inductive reasoning factor, everything, all the information that is happening around you will automatically go into your subconscious mind, which will determine the vibration that you're in, and so determines the actions that you'll take, and so determines the results that you'll have. So when we train our reasoning factor, we give ourselves the ability to become more conscious about the ideas that we accept and the ideas that we reject. Then we have our memory. And our memory, my friends, like, it's perfect. So many people, they say almost after you've introduced yourself, oh, sorry, like, what was your name again? And we can train our memory. Our memory is a higher faculty of the mind. It's perfect. We can train our memory to be perfect. Not in a perfect way that we can always memorize everything. Like, even though like there's people that have taught people how to memorize the Quran, for example. But our memory is perfect in the way that it can give us everything out of our memory at the moment when we need it. And Wayne Dyer, the late great Wayne Dyer, where I started off with a quote today, when you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes, that perception. He also, when he taught in schools, he also wanted to teach people about the memory and how perfect it could be. So whenever he started a new semester in school, he had about 50 to 70 students in a classroom, in a school. And this first class, he always took the whole class to learn everybody's names. 50 to 70 names in like an hour, or in like an hour and a half. And the way that he did it, he went from the first student and he asked the first student to tell his or her name, and then it went to the next student, and the next student had to say his or her name and the name of the last person. And so he went through the 50 or 70 students. And after like the first class, he knew all the names, and after about 2 to 3 weeks, all the students knew each other's names. And he didn't do this just to waste the first class of his semester. He did this to teach people that the memory can be perfect when trained and optimized. And then last but not least, we have our intuition. And our intuition is that godlike power that we've got to read energy. Like, think about it. When you're standing in a mall, or when you're standing somewhere in a street, and somebody like is staring at you from the back, you don't see that person, but you can feel that somebody is staring at you. That is that energy that we pick up. And when we train our intuition, we can train ourselves to pick up and become more sensitive to that kind of energy from other people. So we can pick up the vibration that other people are in. How are other people feeling? We can become more empathetic. But by training that intuition, for example, through meditation and taking more time for quietude, like we also give that intuition, that inner, that sixth sense of ourselves, that Napoleon Hill calls it, we give it the chance to speak to us. That silent inner voice from within, that always knows the right road to take, that silent voice that knows the answers. I always like to say, and I think like it is from the Hindu Upanishads, listen to your heart, it knows the answers. Follow your heart, it knows the answers. So try to get out of your mind, out of your head a bit more, and a little bit more into your heart. Try to follow your feelings. And that is how you can develop your intuition. Now, we've been over some or the higher faculties of the conscious mind. We've been over the perception, we've been over reason, we've been over the will, over the intuition, over the imagination, and over our memory, and how all these higher faculties, when we want to increase the quality of our lives, we have to increase the quality of our ability to use these higher faculties in the creation process. Now, the way that you do this is not by trying to improve all these higher faculties at the same time. Choose one and dive deep. For example, take 2 or 3 months and dive deep on perception. Dive deep on developing your perception and seeing things differently. Trying to see things from different perspectives. Trying to get in other people's shoes. And step by step, you up the quality of your understanding and your ability to use these higher faculties, and so you'll be able to create the life of your dreams. And that is what I want to share with you today about this first inner empire, our mindset, that thing that is for 95% responsible to our success. 5% is strategy and 95% is mindset. And this is how we can control our mindset. So start to study the higher faculties of the mind, my friend. And thank you very much for listening. I would love to wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and live with love and live with passion. Namaste.